the 19th century went on, it became more and more a venue for Irish nationalist meetings, and of course that culminated in the first Dáil Éireann on this day 99 years ago. But a lot of other things happened in that period in this building, and particularly here in the Round Room. For example, when the First World War broke out, John Redmond and the British government held a recruiting meeting in this room to recruit people to the British Army. The meeting itself was a failure. Very few were recruited at that meeting. But the interesting part was that the Irish Citizen Army under James Connolly organised a counter-demonstration and marched through the streets of the city against, and it was one of the first demonstrations against recruiting and against the war by Irish Republicans. Also, this would have been the scene of meetings during the 1913 lockout. Again, when the conscription crisis happened in 1918, actually 100 years ago in April, and we'll be having events here to mark it, and in the city libraries as well. 100 years ago in April, the British government attempted to enforce conscription in Ireland. In other words, compulsory military service in the British Army. The campaign that defeated that attempt began here in the Mansion House. There were meetings in the house itself, in the Oak Room and the other rooms that you've seen, and here in the Round Room. And that culminated in the defeat of conscription, a one-day national strike which took place in April on the anniversary of the Rising, and the British government was defeated in that. The next milestone was the December 1918 general election, the victory of Sinn Féin, and the establishment then of Dáil Éireann, reaffirming the proclamation of the Republic. As I said earlier, the Dáil was suppressed in September 1919 and was forced underground. But it met again here then after the truce. The truce also signed here in the Mansion House in the summer of 1921, and the Dáil was able to meet. It met a number of times in public session here, and that's the photograph you saw on your way in. And also it met in the Oak Room, and a lot of that was in preparation for the negotiations in London, but also for continuing the administration, the alternative administration that was set up by the Dáil. When the Civil War came, or before the Civil War actually came, the treaty was brought back and it was discussed by the Cabinet again in the Mansion House, and that's where the split on the treaty began, in the Cabinet room in the Mansion House, because the Dáil Cabinet was divided on the treaty. In early 1922, the Irish Republican Army held a convention and rejected the treaty. The majority of the rank and file of the IRA at that time rejected the treaty. That convention was held here in the Mansion House. So the history of this place is quite amazing. And I hope before I finish my term of office to actually do a small publication on the Mansion House and the Irish Revolution. So just to conclude, it was good to have you here today, and I hope you enjoyed the day, and look forward to seeing you again in the future. Ardmhéara Mícheál MacDonncha.